The rivalry between the United States and China has reshaped the global landscape, creating a new era of great power competition. This rivalry, marked by trade disputes, technological competition, and geopolitical tensions, has significant implications for countries around the world. The Middle East, a region of vital strategic importance, finds itself caught in the cross-currents of this rivalry, facing both challenges and opportunities. The trade war, initiated by the Trump administration in 2018, has imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods traded between the US and China. These tariffs have disrupted global supply chains, increased costs for businesses, and fueled uncertainty in the global economy. While the trade war has primarily been fought on the economic front, its implications extend far beyond trade, impacting geopolitics, security, and technology. The Middle East, situated at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe, has long been a region of geopolitical significance. Its vast oil reserves, strategic waterways, and religious importance make it a focal point for global powers. The US-China rivalry adds a new layer of complexity to the region's already intricate dynamics. The Middle East's economies are intricately linked to both the US and China, creating a complex web of interdependence. The US has been a dominant force in the region for decades, with strong security ties to countries like Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Egypt. These relationships are underpinned by significant arms sales, military cooperation, and shared strategic interests. China, on the other hand, has emerged as a major economic partner for many Middle Eastern countries. China's Belt and Road Initiative, a massive infrastructure development project, has seen significant investments in ports, railways, and energy projects across the region. This economic engagement has strengthened China's ties with Middle Eastern countries, providing an alternative to traditional partnerships with the West. The US-China trade war has placed Middle Eastern countries in a difficult position. They are compelled to navigate the competing demands of their economic relationships with both powers, seeking to maintain strong ties with both while avoiding being drawn into their rivalry. This balancing act requires careful diplomacy, economic pragmatism, and a strategic vision for the future. The US-China trade war has had a profound impact on the global energy market, particularly on the oil industry, which is the lifeblood of many Middle Eastern economies. The trade war's impact on global demand, coupled with China's growing energy needs and the US's increasing energy independence, has created volatility in oil prices, affecting the revenues of oil-producing countries in the Middle East. China is the world's largest importer of crude oil, and the Middle East is a major supplier. The trade war initially led to a decline in Chinese demand for oil, impacting prices and revenues for Middle Eastern producers. However, as China's economy has rebounded, its demand for oil has surged, highlighting its continued reliance on Middle Eastern energy supplies. The US, on the other hand, has experienced a shale oil boom in recent years, significantly increasing its domestic oil production and reducing its dependence on foreign oil. This shift has made the US less reliant on Middle Eastern oil, potentially diminishing the region's leverage in its relationship with the US. The volatility in the oil market, exacerbated by the US-China trade war, has underscored the need for economic diversification in the Middle East. Many countries in the region are heavily reliant on oil exports, making them vulnerable to fluctuations in oil prices. The trade war has served as a wake-up call, prompting governments to accelerate efforts to diversify their economies and reduce their dependence on oil. Diversification efforts have focused on developing non-oil sectors such as tourism, technology, finance, and renewable energy. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have launched ambitious economic transformation plans aimed at modernizing their economies and attracting foreign investment. However, economic diversification is a long and challenging process. It requires significant investments in infrastructure, education, and technology, as well as structural reforms to improve the business environment. Moreover, the global economic slowdown, exacerbated by the US-China trade war, has created headwinds for diversification efforts, making it more difficult for Middle Eastern countries to attract foreign investment and achieve sustainable growth. Section 5. The Currency of Influence, China's Middle Eastern Gambit. China's growing economic influence in the Middle East has been a notable development in recent years. Its Belt and Road Initiative, which includes massive infrastructure projects across the region, has strengthened its economic ties and expanded its political influence. This growing presence has led to concerns among some Western powers about China's strategic intentions in the region. China's investments in the Middle East have been welcomed by many countries in the region, as they provide much-needed capital for infrastructure development and economic growth. China's approach, which emphasizes economic cooperation and non-interference in domestic affairs, has also been appealing to some Middle Eastern governments. However, China's growing influence has also raised concerns about debt traps, lack of transparency, and potential environmental and social impacts. The US has been wary of China's growing influence in the region, viewing it as a challenge to its own strategic interests. Section 6. A delicate balancing act, navigating great power rivalry. The US-China rivalry has created a complex geopolitical landscape in the Middle East, forcing countries in the region to navigate a delicate balancing act. They seek to maintain strong ties with both powers, leveraging their relationships to advance their own interests while avoiding being drawn into their rivalry. This balancing act requires careful diplomacy, strategic pragmatism, and a clear understanding of the interests and motivations of both the US and China. Middle Eastern countries are leveraging their strategic location, energy resources, and economic potential to secure favorable terms from both powers. However, this balancing act is becoming increasingly challenging as the US-China rivalry intensifies. The pressure to choose sides is mounting, forcing Middle Eastern countries to make difficult choices that could have long-term consequences for their security and prosperity. Section 7. Cracks in the facade, the US Gulf Partnership tested. The US-China trade war, coupled with other geopolitical developments, has exposed cracks in the long-standing US Gulf Partnership. The US's perceived disengagement from the region, its focus on great power competition with China and Russia, and its shifting priorities have raised concerns among Gulf Arab states about the reliability of the US as a security partner. The US's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal, its imposition of sanctions on Iran, and its perceived reluctance to respond forcefully to attacks on Gulf shipping have further strained relations. These developments have led some Gulf Arab states to question the US's commitment to their security and to explore alternative security arrangements. The US's relationship with Saudi Arabia, a cornerstone of its Middle East policy, has also come under scrutiny in recent years, particularly following the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The Biden administration has pledged to recalibrate the US-Saudi relationship, but it remains to be seen how this will play out in practice. Section 8. Seeds of Opportunity, Emerging Alliances and Investments. While the US-China trade war has created challenges for the Middle East, it has also presented new opportunities. The evolving geopolitical landscape has led to the emergence of new alliances and partnerships, as countries in the region seek to diversify their relationships and hedge their bets. China's growing economic influence has created opportunities for Middle Eastern countries to attract investment, particularly in infrastructure, technology, and renewable energy. The US, despite its perceived disengagement from the region, remains a major player, particularly in terms of security and defense. Middle Eastern countries are increasingly looking to leverage their relationships with both the US and China to their advantage. They are seeking to attract investment, secure technology transfer, and enhance their own capabilities in areas such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and space exploration. Section 9. Conclusion. A region in flux. The US-China rivalry has had a profound impact on the Middle East, creating both challenges and opportunities. The trade war, geopolitical tensions, and great power competition have reshaped the region's economic and political landscape, forcing countries to adapt to a new reality. The Middle East is navigating this complex landscape by seeking to maintain strong ties with both the US and China, leveraging its relationships to advance its own interests. The region is undergoing a period of significant transformation, as countries seek to diversify their economies, enhance their technological capabilities, and chart a course in a world increasingly defined by great power competition. The outcome of this rivalry will have significant implications for the Middle East and the wider world. The region's ability to navigate the challenges and seize the opportunities presented by this new era will shape its future for decades to come.